Good morning. It's 9 a.m. Monday, November 20th, 2023. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve, disallow 2023 family farm credit applications as recommended by the Muscatine County Assessor with Kelly Kroll of the Assessor's Office. Good morning.
Good morning. So the 2023 Family Farm Credit signing period ended November 1st. We are recommending to the board to disallow one application this year. The property owner, Black Dirt LLC, signed for the credit. The property does not qualify for the exemption. The applicant didn't own the property on or before July 1st of this year, making them not eligible for the credit for this year. They are eligible next year. We recommend to allow all the other applications. The applications are for properties classified as agriculture, where there was changes to ownership, purchase of new ground, or change in the farmer. These applications we all recommend to allow. Do you have any questions?
I'll move the approval.
Second.
I've got a motion by Jeff, second by Kurt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is second tier canvass of the city and school elections held on November 7th, 2023, where Muscatine County is the control county. Morning, Tabby.
Good morning. This is the second tier canvass to declare the winners of school districts and a city that we share districts with. Louisa Muscatine School Director at Large. Bryce Hoban received 222 votes. Matt McCleary received 242 votes. Carol Whitaker received 184 votes. There was a scattering of 15 votes for a total of 663 votes. We therefore declare Bryce Hoban, Matt McCleary, and Carol Whitaker as the Louisa Muscatine School Director at Large. City of Wilton Mayor. Keith Stanley received 216 votes. There was a scattering of 7 votes, total of 223 votes. We therefore declare Keith Stanley City of Wilton Mayor. City of Wilton City Council at Large. Stevie Whitehead received 160 votes. Wayne Budding, 206 votes. Ted Maroff, 171 votes. Michael Rohr received 110 votes, scattering of 10 votes for a total of 657 votes. We therefore declare Stevie Whitehead, Wayne Budding, Ted Maroff as City of Wilton City Council at Large Directors. West Liberty School Director at Large. Courtney Kreese received 245 votes. Jacob Burrows received 404 votes. Audra Dahlfelt received 434 votes. Emily Dahlfelt received 311 votes. Hannah Chesmore Potts received 327 votes. Kira Aiken received 385 votes. Samira Dare received 217 votes. Joshua B. Jackson received 104 votes, scattering of 3 votes. There was a total of 2,430 votes. We therefore declare Jacob Burrows, Audra Dahlfelt, and Kira Aiken as West Liberty School Director at Large. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tabby. Next is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the November 13th, 2023 regular meeting and the November 14th, 2023 first tier canvass of the November 7th, 2023 city and school elections.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
I got a motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence. Jeff, you have anything?
Nothing to note.
Nathan?
No.
I had nothing to note. Danny?
I had an email with from Bob Moore in regards to 245th. I forwarded that to Jim, and I believe Jim responded to him. And then you and I had that meeting with Ken and Brad. I don't know if that'd be where
yeah,
we should put it under correspondence, maybe.
Yeah, probably should be.
And,
Sorry, I forgot about that.
They was just
That was on
They wanted to
Monday,
have a
right?
conversation about maybe starting a county-wide group similar to the chamber, maybe.
Well, it was the economic development, they're gonna talk with Wilton, and so they wanna do a county-wide economic development organization. If you recall, the board has funded for the last 20-plus years, we've funded a membership to the Quad City Chamber, or an economic development organization, and I think that they wanna rethink that process and what they might suggest, so I think they're gonna go off and put together a plan and then come back and present to the board. So I think it is basically to create a Muscatine County, economic development initiative.
Right. That's all I had.
Kurt?
Yeah, I had Danny Christopherson of 180th Street, Nichols, stop by my house asking about a zoning permit on building a house, shop. And from a building permit he had 30 years ago, which he didn't follow through on, wanted to know if he needed to get another one. I talked with Eric this morning, and I'm gonna follow through with him this afternoon.
Okay, very good. Committee reports. Jeff, you have anything?
Yeah, on the 15th, we had the Bi-State Commission. On the 16th, I had the Region 9 Transportation Policy Committee. So there's been a change in federal legislation we discussed at the Policy Committee. It really has to do with the transportation set-aside or TAP funds, not SPVG funds. And TAP funds are a small portion of the funds, but it is where they're now allowing nonprofit organizations to petition for access to funds. So I think policy committee will probably talk to the technical. We need to create some rules because I could see that as being another grab by other parties to get our transportation funding, which we already are short of. So a little bit concerning. I don't know why nonprofits would need to come to our federal transportation funds. So we had that meeting, and then on the 16th, there was a presentation by an update on the housing study that I said on the Zoom meeting. That was it.
Okay. Nathan?
So let's see, on Wednesday, the 15th, we had the Veterans Commission meeting. Also on Wednesday, the 15th, the Wilton Development Corporation approved the resolution to sell the final lot in the Wilton Industrial Park. So that's good news. I think that's the last one, and so that's what I had.
Okay. On the 15th, I had Riverbend Transit, as well as on the 15th, the Board of Health. On the 16th, we had Region 9 Transportation. And on the 17th was Kurt Weiss had his retirement event out at Discovery, and I attended that. And I wish Kurt well. He's done an outstanding job all these years with county conservation.
It was well attended from when I was there. It was
Yeah.
a lot of folks, so,
Yeah.
yeah, great.
Anything, Danny, on your end?
On the 16th, I had Bi-State Regional Trail Committee, and also on the 16th, I attended that housing study update. That's it.
Okay, Kurt?
Yeah, on the 14th, I had the Lower Cedar Water Management Agency meeting in Durant. They discussed the retention ponds that they're putting up on the east end of town that we sent the letter on last week. On the Thursday the 16th, I had the Muscatine County Fair Board meeting.
Okay. Next is items with the administration office. First is discussion of possible action authorizing one additional social worker trust program position for community services.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm told that you received the additional position justification. Right now, we're carrying 217 clients. Of that, and you've got a breakdown on the second page of how those are being, what services we're providing as far as those are concerned. As you can see, a vast majority of our folks are payee clients. The interesting thing is our department doesn't just do payee services. That's not what we do. We make sure that our folks are stable in the community and getting their needs met. Well, that's not gonna help me any. And making sure that they're stable with their mental health if we possibly can. At the moment, out of 217 people, we have 5 that are not homed at the moment. So, I think that's a pretty decent track record for what we're doing. If you remember, I added half a position and I actually peeled off the nursing home folks to Ashley, who has an expertise in that area, and that's going very, very well. Our nursing home folks, we're having a lot more contact with medical providers and those kinds of things. So that's one of the benefits of having the additional half position. What we've got facing us at the moment is we have, one of my staff is going to go out pre-birth and post-birth. And I'm anticipating probably a maximum of 6 months. There is no way that 1.5 people can manage 217 cases. Not at the rate that they're increasing in complexity. Our folks that are in the nursing homes, we're having to dispose of property and some of that kind of stuff that goes along with that process. So we have, and Jim would probably tell you if he was here, that we're on a regular call basis with Jim to do court orders for this and changes for that with the court. Social Security is adding additional requirements. We are having to give them a court order that has the actual stamped seal. Before, we could just send an electronic copy, but they want to feel the raised bumps so that they can scan it into their system. So I'm not sure how that, but it's playing out to added more work to us for our folks in general. A vast majority of our clients that are coming in now are not easy clients. They're mental health clients, they're substance abuse clients. And so we're doing a lot more chasing than we've ever done before. When I first came, a vast majority of our guardianship and conservatorships were related to intellectual disabilities and nursing home folks. But now, we've got a fair number of folks that have mental health issues, substance abuse issues that we're guardian for as well. And they require a lot of work. So that's my request for the additional position. Even when we get our one person back from maternity leave, that caseload is still gonna be 217 up to 230. We've stayed in that range. This year, we've had 18 folks that have either passed away or moved away, and we've only replaced with 13. But I've got 5 more that are pending. So we roughly stay in that 215 to 230 range most of the time, but the workload's going up.
How many cases do you think would be like the ideal caseload for one of your workers? Looks like you got one at like 95, one at 80 some, that's a bit high.
And it is too high. And like, if you look at the table, it tells you that one of those workers that has the largest load is a low acuity load. So that means she's not out in the community chasing quite as much as the person that has in the 80s. And that's way too big of a load for her. I would say that if we balanced out the loads, I would think that 75 would be plenty for each. The nursing home load is a half-time person, and she's got 38, so that's all she can handle.
What does Ashley do with the other half of her?
She's the general assistance person, so she takes care of all community resources for folks, rent, utilities, food, non-food items. She interfaces with MCSA, and she is doing the contract management for the shelter contract as well.
It said over the last 5 years, your caseload's been 210 to 230, which is 220 average, and you're saying that currently the 2.5 time employees have 217 individuals. Looks like, I know you said the complexity is more, but it looks like the number over the last 5 years has been the same. Is there a possibility of bringing in somebody for 3 to 6 months part-time so that when this gal returns from maternity leave, we're not sitting at 3.5 employees that would be in,
There's no way I can train a trust social worker to manage a caseload for 3 months. No way. It takes a year.
when
To
is
get
she
a
leaving,
person-
when is she leaving for maternity leave?
Well, that's questioning right now. We've got twins in this mix, and we have a high-risk pregnancy. So we don't know if she's going in December, she's going in January, she's going in February, we have no idea.
But
But
if
it's
you-
going to be sudden.
If you brought somebody in now, you wouldn't be able to get them trained within a year, right?
I'd be able to get them trained long enough, 3 months, to be able to manage that caseload short-term.
You'd have to juggle caseload, take them
I would.
a higher acuity.
It's gonna be
more
messy even
seasoned
now.
employees.
It's gonna be messy even now.
Felicia, are we seeing, I mean, are these numbers indicative of changes in the trends, or are we just getting more exposure to what's already out there?
No, we've got trend issues.
Yeah.
We've got dependent adult abuse, and that's becoming more. People are becoming more aware of that. Families are less able to be able to take on the responsibility, and especially for the folks with mental health issues and substance abuse issues, that creates a level of complexity for families that they just don't have. And then we have the issues of law enforcement. We're getting a lot of referrals from law enforcement. So when they go out and the co-responder goes out and we have a person going round and round in the circle, and what I mean by that as a reminder is I just did a list of 15 people that are high utilizers that are not in my system at all. And they're high utilizers, they go to jail, they go to the hospital, they're homeless, they go to jail, and Quinn can probably attest to a lot of that. But 15 high utilizers, that means they've been arrested more than 3 times this year, and they've been committed 3 times this year. So those are people that really need to have a payee and or guardian that we can't get our hands on yet. And that's who we're chasing.
And are those the types that we're conservator or guardian for?
We are guardian and payee for most of those folks. They don't have any assets at all to be conservator for.
Sure.
And generally speaking, they're not working, so that's not one of the things that we have to do for them.
I
A
know.
vast majority of folks that we're conservator for either have jobs or, and they are still disabled, or they're in the nursing home and we're having to deal with, retirements and assets.
Gotcha. Yeah, and all those requirements have only gotten more intense in the last few years.
Yeah, the Guardian report is roughly 23 pages. The Conservator report is upside of 37 pages.
It used to be 2 or 3.
I just know during budget, when we was doing through the budget process here, this year, the auditor's office asked for an additional employee. And I thought they had a very compelling case to why they should have it, and, we gave them alternative options. Don't use, they can use their comp time for, overtime, and some other options. I just hate to go to an extra employee for forever, outside of the budget process, so I don't know if I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think the challenge is community services as an organization is, I don't know, a third the size that it's ever been. As we've transitioned mental health services, we've transitioned case management to caseworkers. So now you have a relatively small staff that has to do all the we're the last resort. The county is the last resort. These are folks that there's no safeguard for other than the county is responsible for it. What's the funding on this? So none of that comes out of the region. This is all county taxpayer funded activity. And this is all code required activity as well.
Yes, and we are becoming a dying breed. Our other issue is that there are no public guardians anymore. They have one person in the state office that manages all of that. All the rest are for-profit. And in that for-profit, you have to have a significant amount of money because on the average, it costs about $100 a month. And the folks we're dealing with don't have $100 a month. There is no way they can pay that kind of a fee. We do charge fees to those folks who have the capacity to do that, and some of our nursing home folks do have that. So, yeah, we're at about half the staff that we originally had. So, and as far as the cost issue, with my retirement in February and with the lower utilization in general assistance, I think the cost is gonna be offset by those two things in particular.
You know, one thing that you said earlier in your conversation was talking about this day and age that people just don't have that support in the family groups and that. But to go along with that, people aren't as willing either. People aren't as willing to pitch in, and that's also part of the problem, I believe.
And on top of that, the families we're dealing with, if they have jobs, they can't afford to take off 2 or 3 days to take care of their loved one, make sure they get to the hospital, make sure they get their meds, make sure they get, because right now, what we have in our system is the client has to go pick up their shot at Wester Drug, and then has to take the shot up to 1616 Cedar to get that shot. And I've got a whole lot of folks that are on monthly injections for mental health. Those families don't have that kind of time off. I've got a mom that's about this close to losing her job over her son because he's so mentally ill. And he needs help and she wants to help him, but she's going to lose her job at Han if she continues to do what she's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So you've got a budget plan for this, and it'll fit within the budget we've approved?
I believe so.
Okay, so I would make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
I've got a motion by Jeff, I've got a second by Nathan. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
4-1 is the vote. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Felicia.
you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
Next is action authorizing the chair to sign the certification statement for the Muscatine County FY 22-23 cost allocation plan.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve resolution 11-20-23-01, transferring funds from the Building Maintenance and Repair Fund to the Capital Projects Fund in the amount of $531,450.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Nathan, second by Jeff. This is a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve resolution 11-20-23-02, transferring funds from the debt repayment fund to the capital projects fund in the amount of $531,450.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. Again, this is a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to approve resolution 11-20-23-03, transferring funds from the ARPA recovery funds to the capital projects fund in the amount of $65,500.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt. Again, a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action to appoint Tom Harper to an additional 5-year term ending November 7, 2028 on the Muscatine County Zoning Commission.
As you recall, I reported to you a while back that Tom had served 2 full terms, and so typically at that point, we advertise to see if there's any other interest. An application from Tom was the only application we received to fill the vacancy.
Okay, and Tom is willing to serve, so.
Yes.
I'll move the approval.
I'll second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
We already thanked Tom for his willingness to serve.
Next is action to accept November 2023 payroll claims.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Danny. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Anything other, Nancy?
No.
Thank you. Next is report and recommendation from the 245th Street Bridge Committee. Possible direction, action by the Board of Supervisors. Jim, you'd like to speak to that? Good morning.
Thank you and good morning. As the board recalls, we had a public meeting a few weeks ago, and subsequent to that meeting, we had one more committee meeting for purposes of determining whether or not there was any additional options that needed to be investigated related to the bridge at 245th and Edgewater. Having not had any further investigation required, the committee has decided that it's appropriate time to come back to the board and make its recommendation. As the board's aware, there are really only two options that the county has in this particular case. I say the county has because I want to distinguish the options the county has from what private citizens may have should they ever own and control the road. They may have some options that wouldn't be available to the county as a governmental entity. So the recommendation that the committee is making to the board is they're, based on the investigation, I think the board's aware there's only really one viable bridge alternative design, that being a slab bridge for the replacement of this bridge. So you have that on the one side, which is estimated at $1.2 million in terms of cost. On the other side, you have the option to vacate and close the road, pay appropriate damages, and move forward without the bridge being replaced. It's difficult to know what the damages are going to be in the event of a vacation and closure, and so the process at this point really mandates, for lack of any other choice, that the committee recommend to the board that a vacation hearing be set by the board, at which time impacted parties can present their claims for damages to the board. And after that meeting, the board can make a decision about whether or not it's more economical to close and vacate the road, or whether it's more economical to replace the bridge and move forward that way. Those are the county's options. Again, I don't say those to limit what landowners out there might be able to do themselves to control and own the road and continue to do what they want to do out there. But from a county perspective, that's really the choice we have. And so the recommendation is that as the entity that's in control of the road by statute, we go ahead and get a time and date for hearing fixed, that we send appropriate notice to the landowners that are impacted by that. That notice has certain requirements that have to be met in terms of the information contained in the notice. Then we have the hearing. People can present their claims and damages. The board can assess those claims and damages, and then the board can decide how to proceed with the bridge closure and vacation of the road or replacement of the bridge. Subsequent to that, if there's a party impacted in the event that the matter proceeds via vacation and closure, party would have an opportunity to file an appeal of any determination made by the Board of Supervisors, at which time that appeal would be go to the district court here in Muscatine County as the county seat for the county in which the bridge is located. So that's the overall process. I think by just process of elimination, there is no other recommendation we can make other than if the board just decides to replace the bridge, but without knowing the counterbalancing cost of that, I'm not sure that's a decision that could be made, that I could recommend be made without having that information available and on hand. And what people submit, only time will tell. Who's entitled to submit a claim, only time will tell. And then once we have that information, the board can make its determination about next steps.
Jim, if I'm hearing you right, it's not that the committee is recommending vacation per se. The committee is more recommending figuring out what the damages and claims would be for a cost of vacation, and then the board from there can decide how to go forward.
And that's the way the code is structured,
Right.
because it's really difficult to talk about an expenditure of that magnitude and not be able to really get to an actual dollar figure on the other side to complete your comparison and your analysis. So the statute does provide that after the hearing, the board can decide to go forward, or they can decide not to go forward.
Okay.
And back up at that stage and move forward. That's part of the reason that the process as it's gone on the last months, which has been tedious, I understand. Part of the reason is to get to a point where if damage claims are submitted and we have to assess those claims, we have to be prepared to assess those claims. And if we're not prepared to assess those claims as stewards of the taxpayers' money, then we're not gonna be able to make a decision at that juncture, if that makes sense. And so all of this has been set up to get to the point where the board can choose to replace the bridge today or go forward with the vacation and closure process, take in the information, and then make its final determination if they want to proceed forward with the vacation closure or not. In the meantime, private citizens could do a number of things on their own that we would not enjoy the ability to do as a governmental entity, and we certainly would encourage them to consider those options for themselves and for the taxpayers of the county.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions, gentlemen?
It looks to me like, we should move forward with the vacation process. That way, when that's all gone through that entire process, it'd be pretty easy to see where the taxpayer dollars need to go.
The only difficulty at this point that we discussed in the committee was the timing of that. You know, we want to give people an adequate time. We're required by statute to give notice no less than 4 days, no more than 20 days before the meeting. But if people do want to submit a claim, we want to give them the opportunity to present a meaningful claim and have some time to do that. With the holidays coming up, you know, that meeting date and time may be something the board wants to consider as it is impacted by those other events that really have nothing to do with it, but do impact the situation.
Would we be able to tentatively set a date, let's say sometime in January, and then, so kind of have that date penciled in, but not give the formal notice until, you know, the maximum of 20 days beforehand?
Right.
Just so people have time to prepare, even if we can't formally notice it up.
That would be one way of approaching it. The other would be to try to get something set up before Christmas, and obviously all of that reduces the time, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's really, to me, a matter of I want people to have a fair opportunity to put the time and effort into whatever claim they want to file, to make sure that it's meaningful to them and meaningful to the
Yeah,
board.
I would agree. Probably after Christmas, I'd favor just to give folks time.
The only comment I'd like to make is I don't think it should have ever got to this point. It should have been dealt with years ago, but I guess we're at where we're at.
Yeah, I think I agree with Nathan. Actually, I look at our budget process starts in January. We're kind of mid to third week January, where we're kind of looking through all of our funding, what we have available and how we allocate dollars. So I don't think in the next 30 days, 60 days is a good time to do anything. So I would make a motion that we move forward with as recommended by the committee, and we look to set a date as recommended by Nathan. We could notice 20 days out and set the date in sometime in January.
And what kind of time and day of the week would we think makes the most sense for that hearing? Like at a meeting, or?
I would think it would be better for most people, like an evening meeting,
Like what we did
possibly.
before, maybe?
Yeah.
Can you push it to February?
Not really, if we wanna impact.
We
the
have to
budget
certify our
process.
budget by March 15th, and we generally try to have that, get through that budget process by the end of January. That would be the biggest challenge we have.
So can we, I don't know if we have to settle on a date, but we can make the motion to do it sometime in January and figure out a date and kind of formally, tentatively approve it next week, something like that, would that work? Or unless you wanna,
No, we can certainly do that.
I mean, I'm just looking at the count. I don't know if anybody's prepared to settle on a date.
Well, I think you're always gonna have this, let's look at what's January look like. What
I
did
just
we-
think it'd probably work out for most all parties to be into
Go
January.
as late in January as you can if you're gonna do that, so everybody has as much time as they need to try to
Was it
wrap up.
September
everything.
27th we did our meeting last time? Was that a Wednesday night?
October, yeah.
Oh, I'm way off, but it was a Wednesday night. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, Wednesday night was pretty well attended. Maybe that is a good night to do it, like the 21st?
That's not
That's
a
a
Wednesday.
Sunday.
Yeah, I'm
24th
looking at
is
February. Sorry. 17th?
17th,
Well, I got a dentist appointment, but I'll manage.
yeah, not at night,
No.
the
Right.
17th.
That's right.
That would be good, think numb your mouth.
Maybe I'll be on Novocaine.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we move forward as recommended by the committee and establish the 17th at 7 PM as a date.
January.
Yep.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Are you opposed because of the date doesn't work for you?
No, the date's fine.
Okay. So it's a 4-1 vote. Motion passes. Next. Receive information from county employees. Do I have any county employees here that wish to address the board at this time? Seeing none come forward. Next is receive comments from the public. Do I have anyone from the public that would like to address the board on anything not on the agenda? State your name and address, please.
Matt Storm, 507 Conesville. Couple things I wanted to just bring up after listening to the vacation recommendation. One thing that's been brought up a few times, and as a taxpayer, I think it's good to represent the rest of the taxpayers. That assessment would probably need to include what it would cost to demolish those cabins and remove those cabins as well. Because I think part of that buyout, there's gonna be a lot of additional costs with moving that stuff out of there. So I think, again, it's a fair thing that you guys need to consider when you see what the costs are gonna be to vacate that bridge. And so then the other thing I just wanted to clarify, I think there's been some discussion about who actually can file damages, whether it's only cabin owners or if it is people who own property. So I don't know if you could add a little bit of clarity to that. And then also, I guess that's just the other question that I had was who all would be eligible to file for those damages, because I want to make sure there's clarity on that, because there's a lot of people who own property down there that aren't cabins. So again, I think you guys truly need to assess what it would cost to demolish all those cabins and remove that out of there as good land stewards for the county, and that's probably a pretty substantial cost.
Well, I can't give the landowners advice. The board certainly can. The statute that's at play relative to damages is Iowa Code Section 306.14 of the Iowa Code, which says the Department, Board of Supervisors, or agency in control of the affected lands and any interested person may appear and be heard at the hearing. Any person owning land abutting a road proposed to be vacated and closed shall have the right to file a claim in writing. However, at or before the time or date for hearing. However, for purposes of this chapter, if an unoccupied homestead is not located on the abutting land, and if the vacating and closing will not landlock the abutting land, that person shall not have a right to file a claim for damages. So the statute sets the class of people that can file for damages, not the county. And so the damage claims I would expect to see would be claims commensurate with that statutory language. Certainly folks on the cabin end or landowner end as they exist in the county at this location can certainly seek their own legal advice.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else from the public that would like to speak on an issue not on the agenda?
Kim Carson, 1113 Colton Street, Columbus Junction, Iowa. We have a cabin at Edgewater Road. I just want to ask Jim, so as I read 306.14, I'm going to just reread the words you said. If an occupied homestead is not located on the abutting land, and if the vacating or closing of the road will not landlock the abutting land, a person shall not have the right. I want to understand landlocking. If you close the bridge, we are landlocked. We cannot access those properties, whether they have a cabin or don't have a cabin on them. So I just want to understand what landlocked means to you.
Well, I'm not in a position to give the cabin owners legal advice. What I can tell you is when claims are made, an assessment will be made of those claims in accordance with the code, and an opinion rendered to the board as to whether it's a claim that I feel is viable in terms of the statute or not. But I think the statute's pretty clear. If you don't have a homestead and you're not landlocked, your ability to file a claim may not be as broad as folks have anticipated. But again, that's a statutory requirement and creation by the legislature of the state, not the county. All we can do is proceed to go forward with the law that as it's been passed and implemented to date.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board on any issue that's not on the agenda? Seeing no one come forward, we will now go into closed session. So we will take a 5-minute break. I'm sorry.